What's going on, you guys? Today we have a truly special one for a lot of you first-time home buyers, or all of you first-time home buyers, because this is going to be crucial. Getting this information, what we're about to talk about, we're about to go from A all the way to Z and fill in every single thing in between. All right. The biggest thing we have to start with is setting you guys' budget and planning for you guys' finance, right? Finances are going to be key. Obviously, depending on your finances, is going to depend on how much you guys get pre-approved for. And then even in the beginning of that, having a mindset going in of gathering all your documentation together as well, so that we know exactly what the bank is going to require from us, what we need to get together so that we can hand everything in, get our pre-approval and go from there. So the biggest thing though is going to be setting the budget. If the bank gives you $1 million, doesn't mean you have to spend $1 million, right? Setting the budget, generally most banks go from about 25% all the way up to about 36% of your gross monthly income. All right. So if you guys make $4,000, you're going to times that by 0.25 all the way up to 0.36. And then you should get some type of monthly budget from that point on of what ideally the bank is going to be able to give you for a monthly payment. Sometimes that does not include your taxes and insurance, right? So that is something that you guys want to know. Taxes and insurance, HOAs, is something that you guys can't avoid, right? That's going to be a set variable. Everything else, your housing cost in itself, is a flexible variable. So again, taxes, insurance, HOAs, that's going to be set, right? You guys cannot alter that. It's just something you can't do, right? But your housing budget, or that specific principal budget, is something that's going to be flexible based on what you guys get qualified for, okay? Setting your budget is going to be key. You guys want to avoid being house poor. I know Instagram and HGTV, y'all seeing Mr. Beast buy $35 million penthouses and all that good stuff, and Jake Paul and Logan and all the mother Pauls. Look, you gotta be realistic about this thing. There's some stuff that's reality, and there's other stuff that's gonna be HGTV, okay? This right here, setting your budget so that you guys are not losing the house in 3 years or 5 years, is going to be crucial when it comes to this planning, understanding your finances, and then lastly, understanding those upfront costs. You're gonna have things like your down payment, which we'll get into in just 1 second, of the different types of loans and the different types of down payments that you guys need, and possibly some assistance. Closing costs are gonna be an extra thing. So your attorney fees, right? That's going to be huge. Your appraisal fees, your loan origination fees. Those are things that you have to pay up front. And there's any other out-of-pocket expenses like your home inspection and your appraisal, or any other things that the bank may need you to pay up front. Especially for you guys that may do an FHA loan, there may be a little bit of extra additional fees up front that you guys may not be aware about. So setting that budget, knowing what you yourself and your wife or your husband as a collective can afford, being mindful of those upfront costs. What do I have in that savings right now? And avoid being house poor at all costs. And the way to do all of those things is using a calculator, right? You can go mortgage, you can go on mortgagecalculator.com. There's a bunch of different mortgage calculators that you guys can use. Input your income, right? Throw in your income, $3,600, $10,000, $20,000 every month that you're bringing in. Throw your income in there. Also, any debts that you guys have, in order to figure out what your budget is going to be. Your debt to income, or your DTI, is going to be huge, because that's how you get qualified outside of what you're just bringing in and outside of just your credit score.
Now, exactly what the advantage says, but there's also some other things, obviously, what we want to talk about, right? There are other additional expenses to consider, and we're trying to keep it 100% in these videos, right? So always consider your utilities, right? They are going to be an expense. You're going to have water, you got to have electricity, you got to have gas, right? And you got to have internet. These days, you got to have internet. That's going to be a fixed cost. Think about maintenance. Okay, so many people sleep on that. It is easy as getting your HVAC maintenance at least twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, to prolong the longevity of your unit working. Okay, and I hate to break it to you, things are eventually going to break. It's going to happen. There is going to be wear and tear in your house. Okay, there could be you need to replace the roof. A window might break. Okay, you might have a leak. The dishwasher goes out. these are the things that are going to happen, but you can prepare for those. You can have a budget set aside knowing that, hey, things might happen. I have a rainy day fund. If you know your roof is 15 years old, it might not be a bad idea to already start budgeting that, knowing that in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to have to replace that joker, okay? Because roofs, yeah, you can make an insurance claim, sometimes you can, so, but let's say if you don't, just budget for it because they are not that cheap, okay? Other things to consider, and we're going to go into a little bit more details of what the financing on the lender side is, okay? If you're thinking about buying a home, your credit scores are going to become very, very important, okay? The better the credit score, the better interest rate you can get, the different loan types you're going to be eligible for, okay? Down payments. Again, better credit score, different interest rates, you can go to different types of down payments, but these are expenses you're gonna have to consider, and we'll go into the different loan types and what down payments are associated with those, okay? Think about your closing costs, okay? I think Devontae already mentioned that, but that is going to be an expense you are going to have. Closing costs for a buyer, if you can think around 4% of your purchase price, that will put you in a really good neighborhood of what you have to bring to the table at the day you're gonna get the keys to your house, okay? But don't freak out so fast, okay? There are also programs that can kind of help you. There are down payment assistance programs. When you talk to your lender, bring those up. If you're a first-time home buyer, there are always a ton of programs that you can maybe take advantage of to kind of give you some money. There is a caveat, okay? And I want to be completely honest about these down payment assistance. As much as they are super, super great, read the fine print. Because a lot of times, if you accept that down payment assistance, they have requirements for you to be in that home a certain amount of time before you're pretty much not on the hook anymore. Let's say you take the down payment assistance, it's 10 grand, okay? But if you take the 10 grand, you have to be in the home for 10 years, but you decided to sell the house after 5 years, now you have to pay that back. Sometimes it's prorated, sometimes it's the full amount. Read the fine print. A lot of down payment assistance do come with some kind of caveat where you have to be in the house for a certain amount of time. Now, if you have parents or you have relatives, the good thing is they can help you buy this house. They can actually get you a gift. So they can actually help you monetarily as a gift to kind of help with some of those down payments and closing costs and such like that. Lenders can accept that. So ask your parents. Another thing to talk about is your emotions. Kevin, what are you talking about? Buying a house is a very emotional process. I've seen literally the nicest people, it sometimes can bring out the worst in them because it's so emotional, right? You want that house, it goes through a lot of process. The lender asks you a ton of stuff. You're going through inspections, you're going through appraisals. Is everything gonna work out? You negotiate repairs with the seller. It can be very emotional, but take your emotions out as much as you can and stick to the why you're even in the process of wanting to purchase this house. Why do you want to buy this house? Stick with that and things are going to work out. Emotions can lead to bad decisions, so leave the emotions out of it. Now, as promised, let's talk about some of the loan types and some of the most used loans, okay? One of the loans that a lot of people use is a conventional loan, okay? With a conventional loan, there are some requirements. Let's just kind of talk about them. You gotta have a minimum credit score of 680, okay? If you have a credit score of 680 and you are a first-time home buyer, not a second time, but a first-time home buyer, you can put as little as 3% down. Yes, only 3%, okay? Now, if you have a home or you're buying your second home, at that point, the 3% no longer pertain to you. Now you're looking at 5% down at a minimum, okay? Now, all of these loans do have some additional fees depending on how much you put down. It's called PMI, primary mortgage insurance. If you put less than 20% down, this will be part of your monthly expense, okay? So keep that in mind. If you don't put 20% down, you will have PMI. With a conventional loan, as soon as you hit an evaluation on equity of 20%, you can request for that PMI to be removed. That is one huge benefit of a conventional loan. Another thing with conventional loan, you can also turn this thing into a rental property without any kind of concerns or the lender caring about it. okay? Conventional loans are great if you meet the qualifications. Otherwise, they can get also more expensive. The next one is a good old FHA loan. FHA, you gotta have a minimum of a 580 credit score, okay? And you can put as low as 3.5% down. Yep, 3.5% will get you into a house. Crazy, right? Now, the difference of an FHA loan, because they also have PMI insurance, okay? But with an FHA loan, it will never fall off. You will have that PMI for the remainder of the entire loan, okay? So keep that in mind. That will never go away, okay? FHA loans, technically, you're not supposed to use them as a rental property. Sometimes lenders don't ask about it, right? As long as they don't know, you know what's gonna happen. But technically, they're not used for rental properties. So, but can you do it? Sure. Now, another big one is USDA loans, okay? Well, USDA loans, they are for rural properties, okay? So if your property is rural, it's a little more on the outskirts with some land, you know you have a septic tank and a well. If you have septic tank and a well, you pretty much know you out there rural, okay? So at that point, you want to ask your lender if this one might qualify for a USDA loan, because one of the huge benefits of USDA, 0% down. Yep, 0%, which is pretty darn sweet. So ask your lender if that's something the property that you're eyeballing is going to qualify for. Now next is a VA loan. In order to qualify for a VA loan, you have to be a veteran, okay? You have to either be retired or you have to be an active duty, or you have to be in a reserve, so anything like that, right, to qualify for a VA loan. VA loans, just like USDA, you have a 0% down payment. That's why veterans love that type of loan, okay? Now, this loan, you can only buy one property, okay? You cannot have two VA loans. So you cannot buy one property with VA and then you want to have another property. You would have to literally sell the first property to qualify for a VA loan again. So keep that in mind, but super awesome product if you're in the service, and if you are, I appreciate you.
Real quick though, if you guys do have a lower credit score, right, and you still need that, let's say you got a lot of mattress money per se, or you just been saving over these last 5 to 7 years and you got a bigger down payment, but your credit score is not as good, you can still get an FHA loan, right? You can still get the FHA loan, but you're just gonna have to put the 10% down or a little bit more money down. I've seen it happen. I'm going through it literally right now. Lower credit score, but he had 20 grand, 25 grand that he just been saving over the years. So he was able to put 10% down, still get the FHA loan, and still be able to move into the house, right? Now we'll talk about some conditions a little bit with the housing and how it affects the different type of loans. Generally, when it comes to FHA loans, right? FHA loans, it needs to be a little bit more move-in ready. No peel and paint, definitely some life on a hot water tank, definitely some life on a roof, furnace and or boiler, depending on what you guys have. And then also some other little nuances that must be kind of make sure that's already on the up and up, right? Anything that comes from the government, they're gonna cross all their T's and dot all their I's. So that's something that you guys wanna know about. And then also with the FHA loans too, sometimes it can take a little bit longer to close. Again, it's coming from the government. Anything that they give you, they're gonna take their time on a lot of the time. Even my first property was through an FHA loan. It took about an extra 2 weeks to get it closed just because the government was taking all day and they were a little bit backed up. Finding a lender. This led me all to say finding a lender is going to be crucial, right? In different markets, it's going to be different, right? So depending on where you guys are coming from, Charlotte is a big city, huge city, right? So a lot of the big banks are there. Truist, Wells Fargo, for sure. Bank of America, for sure, right? Even your small little credit unions are going to be giving you some different types. The nice thing about the big banks is generally they have more money to allocate, right? More money to give you for different loans, and they have different loan options. Sometimes though, with your local banks, depending on your market in Charlotte specific, they have different grant money to be able to give you guys. So how we talked about earlier, the grant versus or the unsecured versus the loan type, right? Or that grant versus the actually secondary loan. Sometimes that grant money can be allocated towards those smaller banks because they're trying to give out more, right? So always talk to your lender, always talk to your loan officer about different things that you can qualify for. Again, like Kevin stated, read the fine print, guys, right? Sometimes local is better, again, depending on you guys' market. Say, for instance, Rocket Mortgage, right? Loan Depot, the big mortgage broker. Not every single agent, so an agent like myself or Kevin, right? Let's say I'm buying a house and I'm bringing my buyer to Kevin. He has a listing or a house that we want to buy, right? Kevin may not like Rocket Mortgage. Kevin may not like as a realtor Loan Depot just because he hears so many horror stories, or he could have went through a horror story or two. Even though Bank of America is very, very big in Charlotte, and I'm hesitant to say this, I haven't been a big fan of Bank of America in itself, just because they have their loan process is crazy. I done fail out of many deals because the bank is promising you one thing, but then don't deliver at the end. So I say this to say, cautionary tale with Bank of America, even though they the biggest bank in Charlotte, I know they probably gonna come for me on this one, but just be mindful, right? Be mindful on some different things and some different things that the lenders are saying. And again, stress is enough. Kevin's point, read that fine print is going to be crucial. When you apply to these, this is gonna be key. When you go to apply first, especially this is your first time, right? Don't be scared. Oh, they're gonna ruin my credit. They're gonna hit me with 10 points. It's not true, right? You generally have about a 2 to 3 week window, right? Sometimes it's I always tell people 2 weeks just to get it done and out the way. You can apply to as many lenders as possible and it won't continue to ding your credit report. For example, let's say I do go to Wells Fargo. Hey, need a loan, looking to get a loan for a house. They'll run your credit on a soft pull. It's not gonna be a hard pull, a soft pull. From that point forward, if you did that on a 1st of January, you have until the 15th, or I would really say the 14th of January, to shop around as much as possible. Always get 2 to 3 different quotes if you guys want to. In this case right here, right, this is where a good realtor is going to be so important, because he or she is probably going to have, or the two he's in this, me and Kevin and I, proper English, are going to be beneficial here because we can put you in contact with 2 to 3 different people. I always like a local bank, and then I always recommend a broker. A broker is going to shop around for you. A local bank, you're going straight to them. They're not going to sell your mortgage off like the mortgage broker will, okay? So something you guys want to think about. Get 2 to 3 different quotes, compare those interest rates, compare your down payment. Pay attention to your origination fee. I've seen banks try to charge you $1,300 for an origination fee. It's stupid. Like, that's ridiculous, right? Or I've seen in some cases where a bank would try to charge you $800 for an appraisal. That's mind-boggling. Like, you know what I'm saying, for a single family home. That should be like $450, $500, you know what I'm saying? And they're even using third parties. We get a whole nother thing on that. But just make sure you guys shop around, get the best rates, and read over what's called your itemized worksheet. Look at all those numbers. It could be confusing at first, right? That itemized worksheet or that loan estimate sheet is something that should be black and white. They all look the same, and you'll know exactly what my potential principal is, where my taxes are, what my homeowner's insurance is, what is my cash to close. Those are probably the 4 to 5 big things that you guys want to really look forward to, okay? Get recommendations from your agent. That's what they're there for. That's what they're there for. And then, again, if you're not getting along with that loan officer, if that loan officer is not calling you back when you need them, get a different one. That agent and that loan officer is going to be the best friends for the next 3 months. If you ain't getting along with one of them 3, you need to get rid of one. You know what I'm saying? They're there to serve you, okay? Always remember that. The agent and the loan officer is there to be of service to you first. And then we can take care of all the goody stuff and the showings and all that pretty stuff later on, okay? Kevin, anything to add to that?
Actually, yes. As a matter of fact, like Devontae just said, if your loan offer is not communicative or is very slow to get back to you, move on. The loan offer is such a vital part in this entire transaction because he handles the money, and without the money, we are not going anywhere, right? So definitely get a good lender, and your agent, us, will definitely partner with some good lenders, because otherwise we don't want to work with them either, because we want a good experience for everybody, right? Another thing is, and I come across this when you're looking at your itemized statement, right, your worksheet, is sometimes lenders, especially if you've never worked with them before, they'll say, they're trying to promise you like lower interest rates, and they might, but keep an eye on that because they will charge you for that. If it's like all of a sudden their interest rate is lower by like a half a point or something like that than everybody else that you talk to, they might charge you, and it's gonna show as discount points, right? So just because they're promising, you're paying for those. To get a lower interest rate, you'll pay for that. So don't let them, if they are getting interest rate, ask them if I'm getting charged for this lower rate. I think it's a very important question because discount points are very expensive. We're talking thousands of dollars sometimes. On the same line of working with lenders, it is important to get all your documents in a row. I am not going to lie, they are going to ask for a good amount of stuff, okay? So don't freak out. A lot of them have a portal to make it pretty easy and seamless, but they're gonna ask for a good amount. For example, they want 2 years of your tax return, okay? W-2 or 1099. If you're 1099, you have to have 2 years. If you haven't been in the business or self-employed for 2 years, you cannot get a traditional loan. There are different loan products now that you can use, like a bank statement loan, stuff like that, but we're not talking about those today, but there are options, right? But typically for a 1099, you wanna be in the business for 2 years before you can do that. They're looking for pay stubs, right? For the last 30 days, sometimes a little bit longer. So make sure you have those ready. Bank statements, make sure you have those ready as well. Obviously, your ID, they need a copy of those. Whoever is going to be on the loan, keep in mind, if you're with your spouse, they need the information from your spouse as well. Whoever is on the loan, they all have to qualify for the loan. Through this entire process of buying a house, we're talking about a bunch of things that need to get done in order to get the loan and be able to buy a house and build the right relationships with lender and realtor. But there are some things you absolutely want to avoid, okay? And here are those. Now, literally, mark them down and don't do any of them because it will mess up the entire process, okay? Don't buy anything on credit while you're in the process of buying a house, right? Don't buy a car, don't buy furniture. You're about to buy a house, so you need that new couch, you need that new TV or whatever. Anything you buy on credit is gonna mess things up because it's gonna go towards your debt to income. Now your credits might be a little bit lower because they did do a pull and they might did a hard pull. So just don't do it. Don't move large amounts of money around, okay? Don't have big deposits, don't have any big withdrawals. If you know it's something that's gonna happen, it's unavoidable, talk to your lender and let them know it's going to happen, okay? No surprise super amounts of cash because it's gonna be questionable, okay? Do not change jobs, okay? During that process, and even if you're looking and you're about to get this awesome job opportunity somewhere else, see if your start date can be after you got the house. Once you get the keys, it doesn't matter, right? Then it's recorded, it's done deal. You can change the job and you can buy that sofa. But in between, just don't do it. Make sure you keep your payments up. You don't have any late payments. In that process, there'll be a terrible time to be sent to collections. No good. Also, you don't have to look at every single house that comes on the market. Okay, you don't have to go out and see 30 houses, okay? Don't have any kind of FOMO, just stay in your lane, okay? Look at the things that you wanna look at. There's always going to be another house. If you're not ready to buy it quite yet, and you see that house that'll be perfect, but it's just not the right time, or you're in the process, don't jump the gun. There will be a house for you, I promise. It is definitely going to happen for you.
I always like this saying is, what's for you is gonna be for you. If you guys are out all the time, you put your due diligence in and you guys are looking for the house that you specifically want, These are the things that it will work out, right? Especially in this environment, Charlotte is not as super competitive, right? You got some, with multiple offers, but it's not crazy, right? Like it was in 2022. I know Kevin remembers 2021, especially during 2023. Last year was insane when it comes to multiple offers, right? It will happen. Again, like we talked about in the beginning, having that mindset of I'm going to get a house, right? It will work out for you. And that's one of the things that will help is budgeting your needs versus your wants, right? If you have a 5-person family, you need 4 bedrooms, right? You want an ensuite. Like, you know what I'm saying? You want a primary bath, right? Or maybe for some of you, that may be a need for you guys. Like, look, I ain't sharing the bathroom with my children at all. I need that hallway bathroom and I need my own bathroom, right? So those, you really want to have a list. Itemize that thing. What are my needs? Absolute must in the house, right? All right, then what are my wants? These are the things that are kind of nice. It'd be cool to have, but I don't really need them. But I need 4 bedrooms. We entertain all the time. So we're going to need a pantry and a big kitchen. Those are needs, absolute needs, or we need to be in a specific school district because our child may have a disability. We really just want them to go to this specific school, right? So budget that out, write that out, sit down with your spouse, right? Make sure you have those things. And it may be something your kid wrote. Hey, we want a dog, mom and dad. You need a gate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're gonna be drilling an invisible fence around your perimeter. So those are different things. Make sure you guys know those things. We talked about it 3 times. I'm gonna say it one more time. Stick to your budget. Do not become house poor trying to keep up with homie down the street. It doesn't make any sense financially. You wanna still be in your house in 5-10 years, okay? And then next thing is stick with your timeline, especially for you guys that may be in a position where, hey, I just left college 2 years ago, or I got this dope job coming to Charlotte, right? Or I'm going somewhere else. Make sure you guys stick within your timeline. What's your new employment date if you guys are moving because of school? What's your child's first day of school? You want to be settled in before then, right? Or if I want to have a house as much as possible or as best at my ability in the next 8 months, you want to know your timeline and reverse engineer, especially from you guys that's coming from a lease to purchasing.
How urgent do we have to act? Do we have time to look for houses, or do we have to find something right now? Because that also dictates how aggressive we're gonna have to be on our offers, right? If you have to be in the house in the next 45 days, we cannot just like bounce around, sing Kumbaya and whatever. We have to be actively looking, making really considerable offers in order to lock something in, okay? So we need to know if we have time, then we can just kind of shop around. We can see if we can get some good deals out there, but if we don't, then we just don't have the time to kind of play around. I always tell my clients this if I show them homes, especially the ones that need to get a house, right? If I can tell they like it and we'll talk about it and tell me they like it, if I ask them, do you think this meets 85% of your needs list or wants list? If they say yes, then okay, I have one more question to ask. If you wake up in the morning tomorrow and you'll find out that somebody else purchased that home, would you be upset? And if that answer is yes, at that point it might be, you might want to consider if you want to move forward of potentially putting an offer on. Because if you're going to be upset tomorrow because somebody else beat you to the punch, maybe you should buy it.
When you guys are selecting an agent, here's some things to consider, especially in this day and age when a lot of things have changed, right? It's called dual agency. Let's say you don't have an agent right away. You walk into Kevin's open house. He's selling the house, but you walk into his house unrepresented, or you just don't have an agent, right? If you walk in there, Kevin is gonna, as most good realtors do, he's gonna have a conversation with you. If he learns that you are unrepresented or you don't have an agent with you, he may, and you really like that house, he's going to put that deal together and he's gonna represent both of you guys. Is this a bad thing? It is not a bad thing. Is it the best thing in the world? Probably not, especially as a first-time home buyer, because you need more assistance than anybody else. And also, you don't know the game. You do not, and are some sleazeballs out there. They can try to wiggle you into something that you may not want to do, or they can try to force you into a number that you may not want, right? So they could try to make you overbid for 10, 15 grand, right? So if possible, go in there prepared with your approval, go in there prepared with an agent. Even if you guys have an agent, right? Or you can still go to the open houses. Just put your agent's name down on the open house sheet. Again, when you guys do get an agent, if you want to pop by a couple open houses, that's cool. You can do that. Put your agent's name down, or whoever you're working with the names down, so that you're not getting bombarded with 10 extra phone calls, because they will call you to follow up with everything that, you know, they're trying to get that house sold. Okay. So that's something to look for. Also, when you're selecting your agent, make sure you guys get a teacher, someone who can break down information to your knowledge and so that you understand. A good agent should always be able to break down any point, not only of the contract, but of the process and stage that you're in during the buying process. You want somebody to teach you this so that it doesn't feel that you're unaware or you don't know what's going on. That is going to be pivotal, okay? Going to be pivotal. And experience sometimes isn't everything. Just because your mother used the agent and she's been in the game for 30 years, if she's only doing 2 deals a year, she doesn't have the experience that she says she does. She's just been doing this on the side for a long time. You want somebody who's been closing deals, who understands this process, not just, I've been in this for 30 years. That's whack. Trust me on this one. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me, or you, as it should, right? Doesn't mean anything. Make sure this person is active in the market, not just doing something on the side. And just because it was your mother and father's realtor does not mean you have to use them. If they are out of touch with your reality, get someone you're going to want to spend the next 2 to 3 months with, because it's going to be that long and you're going to be communicating with that realtor a lot.
I agree with everything Devontae just said. Now, I want to add to this, you just have to trust your gut sometimes. Like, you know, when you meet somebody and you don't even know why, but something just feels off, you want to trust that. The same thing is like you meet somebody and you're like, man, I'm vibing with this person. You don't know why, but you just do. Do the same thing with your agent. Like, when you have a conversation, do you vibe with that person? Do you relate? Is it easy to talk to? You know, that's something, because you're going to get pretty intimate with your agent. So you want to be able to have good conversations and good communication with that person. Now, how can you find a good agent? Now, the best thing, obviously, get a referral, like somebody that already worked with an agent, right? That they can refer you to. That kind of is a very good way of finding somebody, because there's firsthand experience. The next thing is also just look online on what some of the reviews say. Now, I have to keep it 100, Devontae. You know, we have to. Sometimes agents get other people to do the reviews that they have never worked with, right? So take those reviews sometimes with a grain of salt, but they are a good indicator nonetheless, right? So that is a good way of finding your agent. Now, to bring this one home, the answer to all this is you want to get an agent, okay? They're going to be able to guide you. They're going to be able to represent you, okay? Because if you've never done this before, and us agents, we do this all the time, but you've never bought or sold a house before, you don't really know what to expect. If you bought a house for your very first time, you get this inspection report back that has 40 pages of stuff on there. Do you know how to decipher it or how to negotiate it? You probably don't, right? So you want somebody that is on your side, okay? And yes, a lot of times, you know, sellers are still paying buyers' agents, okay? 99% of the time, they're still paying them. I have not personally run into a situation yet where they're not willing to pay the buyer's agent commission. With all the changes that happened, which I'm sure you're aware, right? If your agent that you talk to and you vibe with and you want to work with and says, yes, we have to sign an agreement, don't freak out. It is something that has to happen now, right? In order for that agent to represent you and pretty much say, I'm on your side, we're going to have to sign an agreement. So don't freak out on that part. It is normal business. That person, that agent is just there to represent you. Now that we talked about how to find an agent and you have your agent, thank you for picking either Devontae and myself. Love to be of service. Now it's time to look for the home, the fun part, okay? The best way you're gonna find home is through your agent on the MLS. So once we narrow down, we had that discussion, we know what you're looking for. Now we're gonna go out hunting and trying to find the right home for you in the right location with the amenities that you're looking for. And we're gonna use the MLS for that, right? The multiple listing service where all active, up-to-date listings are gonna get listed and we have access to that we're gonna be able to share with you, okay? Once we find that house, it's a great one. Again, we have to say it, we have to mention it, stick to your budget, okay? Obviously, we're gonna send you properties that are gonna be within that budget, but here's a little bit of a caveat, and Devontae, feel free to chime in on this one, okay? If you tell me your budget is 500K, okay, I might go out and start searching for homes that might be a little bit above that sometimes, okay? Because it widens it a little bit, because there's a couple of ways. A, that house that is now, it's maybe 520, it's been on the market for 3 months, that seller might be motivated and I can negotiate that price down, right? If I can, great, right? It's still within the budget. Let's say I can only negotiate 10K down, for example, right? But that house is just everything that you're looking for. It has the fence, it has the kitchen, the bath, it has the second primary suite where all the guests can come, right? Now you can also go back to the lender, say, hey, if we add 10K to our budget, A, is it possible? And how much more will it add to your monthly budget? 10K usually is not going to be a huge bump to it's gonna break the bank, and it might be worth it, okay? So I always like going just a little bit over to see if I can find something I can negotiate down or close enough to the budget that meets everything on the wish list, but just a little bit above and just add a little bit more that does not break the bank or make you house poor, if that makes sense.
And one thing, especially for a lot of you young couples, look to plan for the future, right? If you guys know you're gonna be there for sure for the next 5-10 years, and you guys are expecting or want to have some children, buying a 2-bedroom may or may not make a little sense right now. You wanna get that 3rd bedroom to add for a little bit extra room for you guys. Especially for you guys that's looking to build a house, don't always just build that 2-bedroom because it's the most affordable, right? Or don't always think of something so unique or out of this world that you're gonna have trouble selling that thing in the next 5 to 10 years, right? You do want some type of equity built up inside your house and be able to profit a little bit. It's not the greatest, investment in the world. You may not make $1 million off the thing, but you want to be able to sell it for at least a profit and not build it so unique to your liking that you're forgetting the general population as well too, if that makes sense, right? Keep that nice layout. You can tinker with things here and there, but make sure you'll be able to sell it, and make sure you guys are planning for the future when it comes to especially building a house or purchasing one right now. All right, let's say you guys did find a house, right? We got the approval, we've been shopping around with Kevin this whole time, we found a house that we really want, right? Making an offer is going to be key. Putting it together properly. This is where Kevin really comes into place and really shines here. He's gonna put together, or I'm gonna put together, the best offer possible to get this house won, especially if it's a multiple offer situation. We may have to go up a little bit, but on price, but we can also have different key terms, right? Price is not always the here-all be-all. Sometimes terms like deposit, non-refundable deposit. So say hey, we want this house so bad, we'll give you $1,000 non-refundable, right? I don't always recommend that, but just as exaggeratory example, there you go, right? So deposit financing, if you're putting more money down or less money down, again, the type of bank that you use can make a huge difference sometimes to that listing agent and how that listing agent is presenting it to that seller. So those are some key things too. Seller credits, right? If you guys, let's say you don't have the biggest down payment in the world and you do need some seller's concessions. How much of those concessions are you really using? Are you going to be negotiating with the home inspection or non-doing a home inspection? So terms can a lot of times make a big difference just as much as price goes. But when you put together the offer, this is where you really need to lean on your realtor. They're going to help you when it comes to constructing that offer, putting in the best offer possible. That way you guys can really have the best chance possible to win that house that you guys love, right? Always recommend putting in a summary. Now, you cannot do love letters anymore, right? Ever since 2019, you cannot do love letters anymore. So don't think about, hey, I'm gonna put a picture inside an envelope, mail it to the seller. Pretty much all across the United States, that's gone, right? Ever since 2018, 2019. So don't do that. That's gonna get you and your agent in a whole heap of trouble. But what you can do is put together a strong letter or summary of the actual contract. Nothing personal, no family stuff, but an actual strong letter or summary to the seller. Hey, we going 10% down. This is how much the deposit is. This is how much our due diligence period is. We are doing a home inspection, things like that. You can put together a nice summary. Your agent should put it in a nice package, and either they're going to present for you or they're going to email that package over to the seller and listing agent. So make sure your agent is doing their part on that and putting together a nice summary, and the presentation itself is very good. They're not just sending over 30 documents or 10 different separate documents with trying to put in an offer. That's confusing to a lot of people. It should be one document, one PDF, sending it over to the seller. Have your lender call as well. That's another key thing. We talked about communication earlier with our lender. If you have a tight communication with your lender and they can give a call over to the seller, basically vouching for you that your finances are good, that's gonna help a ton. There's been plenty of times every single agent has went through it, every single seller has went through it, where they promise them the high hopes and dreams of the offer and it falls through. If you're a loan officer, the bank, the actual person who's giving you the money can vouch for you in that sense with a phone call or an email or something like that, it's gonna help your offer stand out 1,000% amongst everybody else. If you 1 out of 4 and you're the only one who did that, chances are you'll get that leg up on everybody else.
One of the big milestones in the purchase of a home are the inspections and negotiating repairs. So getting a home inspection, I would highly, highly recommend. You know, you can be very well trained as far as like doing renovations and stuff like that, but I am pretty sure you don't have X-ray vision and you do not know what's going on behind the walls underneath the house. Well, sometimes you can if you're crawling in a crawl space, but you know. But nonetheless, let a certified home inspector do that job for you so you can literally get a bird's eye view of what the condition of the property is that you are purchasing for yourself, for your family, wherever it might be, right? Now, with the inspection report, it is the inspector's job to find anything wrong, no matter how big or how small. So the inspection report can look pretty scary, especially if you have never done this before. You get like 30, 40 pages of stuff that's just like, what am I buying here? Am I buying just a freaking lemon? You're not. You're not. Again, it's the inspector's job to literally nitpick every single little thing on this house. The skill comes into literally just focusing on the major parts of what is wrong, okay? And that's where your agent comes in, where you talk about, let's look at the roof, foundation, HVAC, some of the big ticket items, right, where there needs some repairs, like the electrical. Focus on those things, right? And then what you do during your inspection period, once you figure out those items that you think or you and your agent seem vital that should get addressed by the seller, you would then go back to the listing agent and the seller and ask for some of those repairs to be done. Either they're going to do those repairs, they may not do those repairs, but you start negotiating, right? And sometimes they say, you know what, we're not gonna make these repairs, but we're willing to give you money at closing so you can do those repairs yourself. That is a very, very, very common solution where they say, hey, we get our quotes, you get our quotes, and then we'll just give you money at closing so you can rectify the problems that were found during the inspection period.
After negotiations, we're pretty much ready to close, right? Now we're talking about getting underwriting, getting all your mortgage documentation in, and pretty much preparing yourself for a closing, right? This is the woo-saw, or that kind of limbo period of closing a lot of the times. Any documentation that the lender, your loan officer, or what's called the underwriter is going to ask you for, hand them in, right? It may be some pay stubs, it may be some extra tax documentation, employment verification. a lot of those things that the lender is going to ask you for, it may seem a little intrusive, but it's probably for a reason. If it seems like, hey, we need the last 12 months of bank statements, that's a little outrageous, right? Generally, it's about 2 to 3 months, okay? Depending on an underwriter. But make sure you supply them with the things that they're looking for so that you can get it closed sooner than later, right? And that's pretty much underwriting. Again, avoid any financial changes. I cannot emphasize that enough. No new cars, don't go finance a Rolex, don't get engaged right there and try to finance a ring or drop 20 grand on a ring. Do not change employers halfway through. From that underwriter, you'll get a commitment letter. Pretty much after the commitment letter, it's smooth sailing from that point on. You should be good to go. They'll do the appraisal. Again, remember FHA, a little more move and ready. Conventional, they'll look over a couple things, either get where you want that appraisal to be at or above whatever you paid for. So to break this down, let's say you do find a house for $350. You need that appraisal to be at $350,000 or at $351 or at $355 and beyond, right? You get equity already inside your house. If this appraisal comes back and it is undervalued or it's at $345, that's when we're gonna go back to the negotiation table and renegotiate with that seller to come down on that price. You don't wanna be the one to come up with an extra 5 grand paying for a house that's not valued by the bank and deemed worthy by the bank of that purchase price. You do not wanna do that. You do not. That means you're coming into this thing with negative equity. You do not want that. You want above equity or right at that sweet point, okay? Now, pack your bags, pack your boxes up, get ready to start moving, and you'll always get your keys at closing. Before closing, review those costs, right? Make sure they're taking out that deposit money. Make sure the cash you need to close, the deposit money is taken out, or any other advanced deposit that you made are taken out of the down payment. Review that thing. If that number seems a little off, review it with your loan officer. Don't be afraid to ask questions right here because you don't want to pay some extra money that wasn't caught. Now you out of 3, 4, 5, 10 grand and you just because you wasn't paying attention, okay? Review that loan estimate sheet. You should get that 3 days before close and then show up there with your check or you can wire the money these days and then you'll get your keys at closing. All right, Kevin, anything to add to that underwriting process or closing process real quick?
No, I think you summed it up pretty nicely, and I love that you brought up also the appraisal because it's another huge step on the process of buying a house because that can be another choke point in potential negotiation with the seller. So, yeah, needed to know that.
All right.
So some additional tips to consider, okay? And we pretty much addressed all those things, right? But I can't stress enough that when you're ready to buy a house, the first conversation that needs to be had is with the lender, okay? Find a good lender because you need to get your financing point because without that, it's not going to happen, okay? And from there on, just stay organized. Stay on task in what needs to get done. Don't derail. Don't buy unnecessary stuff. Just for that time, just stay locked in. Tunnel vision, baby. Literally just tunnel vision, okay? And after that, live life like you were doing, but during that time, get your finances right, stay locked in.
As always, we enjoyed this video. I know this one was a little bit longer, but there's so much information when it comes to buying your first home. So we wanted to break all these little points down. If you guys have any questions about anything, either drop them in the comment box or send us a call or text. We'll hop on, we'll consult, we'll get you on your way, and we can always go from there and start you on this process, especially in 25. With all the new changes, housing prices are not going nowhere. They're gonna be what they're gonna be. So it's better now, I know you heard it 1,000 times, than to wait later. Just look at Charlotte's trajectory over the last 5 years alone. It's crazy when you're talking about home prices. All right, so as always, Kevin, any of your famous last words?
Yes, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Love making these videos, especially this one. This is an important one. I think everybody just needs to know those details because I think everybody wants to be a homeowner at some point. But we want to make this dream of yours a reality. So if we can do that for you, give us a call, shoot us an email. Love to be there, support, and make it happen. Until next time, see ya.